Hi all, welcome to the new video of computer network. In this video we are going to discuss DTE DCE interface. Many standards have been developed to define the connection between DTE and DC. Each standard provides a model to mechanical electrical functional characteristics of the connection. EIA and ITU-T are the most active organizations have been involved in developing DTE DC interface standards. EAA standards are EAA 232, EAA 442, EAA 449, ITU T standards, V series and X series. In this, we need to know about the expansion form, that is DTE stands for data terminal equipment and DCE stands for data circuit terminating equipment. DT and DC standards try to define the mechanical, electrical and functional characteristics of connection between DT and DC. We have the term EIA. EIA stands for Electronic Industries Alliance and ITU stands for International Telecommunication Union. ITU stands for International Telecommunication Union, EIA Electronic Industries Alliance, DTE Data Terminal Equipment and DC Data Circuit Terminating Equipment. So, in this figure we can see that there is two DT and two DC. We are going to discuss difference between DT and DC. We know that DTE stands for data terminating equipment and DCE stands for data circuit terminating equipment. These two terms are important in computer networking. The DTE generates the data and passes them along with any necessary control characteristics to a DC. These both terms are frequently used in data communication and networking. These terms can be considered as the type of serial communication devices where basic WAN connectivity between subscriber and provider relies on. The basic difference between DT and DC that is usually located at the service provider, whereas DT is the attached device. We can compare with these two terms. After I define, I will explain you what is DTE and what is DC. So the DCE converts the signal to a format appropriate to the transmission medium and introduces it into the network link when the signal arrives at the receiving end. This process is reversed. First one, we have data terminal equipment. Data terminal equipment. It is a terminal residing at physical layer or can be anything that could be able to generate to consume digital data like computers. In other words, it is an assembly that operates either as a source or for as a destination for binary digital data. There is no direct mechanism for DTE to communicate. So communication occurs placed through some intermediary devices. Let's take a real life example which will illustrate the working of DTE. Suppose your brain is a DTE device which can generate and consume ideas. If your brain wants to communicate with your friend's brain to interpret the idea generated by your brain, it would not be practically possible. Consequently, your brain will take help of your vocal cords for the interpretation of the idea. That's how DTE works. Customer devices that connect to the telephone company equipment are known as CT. That is, CT stands for customer telephony equipment. Demarcation point is the meeting spot of customer equipment that is DTE, and telephone equipment, that is DCE. Now this is about data terminal equipment. Data terminal equipment includes any unit that function either as a source of or as a destination for binary digital data. At the physical layer, it can be a terminal, micro computer, printer, tax machine, or any other device that generates or consumes digital data. DT is do not often communicate directly with one another. They generate and consume information but need an intermediary to be able to communicate. Now, data circuit terminating equipment, that is DCE. It involves operative units that transfer or receive data in the form of digital or analog signal within a network. In the physical layer, the DC obtain the data produced by the DT and convert it into suitable signals. Then it introduce the signal onto the telecommunication link. Generally, the DC is we use at this layer involves modems, that is modulator or demodulator. In a network, a DTE produces digital data and move them to a DC. Then DC translates the data in a specific form that can be accepted by the transmission medium and send the translated signal to another DC on the network. The second DC extracts the signal out of the line and transforms it into such a form that its DTE can use and deliver. In order to achieve this communication, both the sending and receiving DC must use the same modulating method, much the way that if you want to communicate to someone who understands on one particular language, then you must speak the particular language. There is no compulsion to synchronize the two DTEs with each other, but each must be coordinated with its own DC, and the DC must be coordinated so that data translation occurs without loss of integrity. Now we know that DC includes any functional unit that transmits or receives data in the form of an analog or digital signal through a network. At the physical layer, a DC takes data generated by the DC, converts to an appropriate signal, and then it introduces the signal onto the telecommunication link. A DCE is any device that transmits or receives data in the form of an analog or digital signal through a network. Now, before explaining EIA 232 interface, we need to understand key difference between DT and DC. DT is a device that acts as an information source or an information sink for the binary digital data. In contrast, DC is a device used as an interface between a DT. It also transmits or receives data in the form of digital or analog signal in a network. DTE produces the data and traverses them with the required control character to a DC. On the other hand, DC converts the signal to a format appropriate to the transmission medium and introduces it onto the network line. And next point is that coordination is mandatory in DC so as to communicate, whereas it is not the case in DTE. Now, our next point that is two DT connect with each other by utilizing DC network. We need to conclude this topic. We know that we know the abbreviation. DT stands for data terminating equipment and DC stands for data circuit terminating equipment are the types of serial communication devices. Both DC and DT devices are equally important for WAN connectivity. DT is a device which can perform as a binary digital data source or destination, while DC includes device that transmit or receives data in the form of digital or analog signal in a network. So this is about data circuit terminating equipment DC. Then one more is the data terminal equipment. So this is about DTE DCE interface. In the next video we will come with the EIA 232 interface. So thank you all.